Do you remember about the A, the B and the C? To abstain, to be faithful and to use condoms.
It's dusk in Kigali, the capital of Rwanda. Around 100 teenagers have come to an after-school cricket club, not just to learn the game, but also a vital message that could mean the difference between life and death.
I am protecting my stumps and, again, I am protecting myself. It is the same when you use condoms. You are protecting. You see? Can you see?
Combining cricket with an AIDS prevention message may seem like a simple idea, but across Africa it's having a real impact.
The goal to fight HIV wherever in the world is to reduce the infection. Linking cricket to HIV is a very good idea. It's an innovative idea. It's a wonderful idea.
It's an idea that survives on the enthusiasm of volunteers from Britain.
Just to see the smiles on the faces, to see the game being played, I genuinely believe that at the end of the lessons, they've listened to the ABC, they've understood that, and I think that's what makes it worthwhile.
The charity, Cricket Without Boundaries, has to contend with even more than the HIV/AIDS epidemic. It works in countries haunted by history.
We were quite choked coming up and seeing that this is one of the sites of one of the main massacres in Kigali. The country has moved on from that. They haven't forgotten, they're aware of their history, but they want to move on and they want to progress.
October saw the 27th and 28th projects run by Cricket Without Boundaries. I joined the volunteers in Nakuru in Kenya and in Kigali in Rwanda to see how basic cricket coaching could be combined with a message about HIV/AIDS prevention in countries which deal with death and disease as part of their daily existence.
My name is Lee Booth, I'm a volunteer with Cricket Without Boundaries and we are currently at Kabasunzu Primary School here on the outskirts of Kigali. So Cricket Without Boundaries does two main roles really. We are a cricket development charity, but in everything that we do cricket-wise we try and really get across positive HIV/AIDS messages. So the ones that we tend to use are A for abstain, B be faithful and C to use a condom. And in that way we get those simple messages across while we're playing sport. When we're coaching batting, we'll tell them to abstain from hitting the ball in the air. Be faithful is obvious. You have to be faithful to your partners when you're batting. You have to be faithful for your team. And C, we also use is condom, but we use for protection. So the big one there will be using the bat to protect yourself and to protect your wickets. Okay. Although these children will already be receiving these messages, they will get the ABC message in school. It's a very different message when they're having fun, they're having enjoyment, and also they tend to relate to sports coaches like people do back home. Cricket in Rwanda, compared with the other countries that CW visit, is probably really grassroots level. They currently have one cricket ground, they're looking to build another cricket ground. So again, unlike a lot of the projects really, maybe this isn't our very much cricket-specific one, but obviously we can really go to town on the HIV/AIDS messages.
I'm at Kabasunzu Primary School, which is one of the poorer areas of Kigali. We can see the rapidly developing city centre from here, but here things aren't perhaps so good. And there are 3,000 kids in this particular primary school, so many that they have to split it into shifts to teach them. So there's a morning school and an afternoon school. They do get about an hour's PE a week, but with class sizes of about 100, it's very difficult for them to really learn much. However, this is exactly the kind of project that's been a great success for Cricket Without Boundaries because, well, it's one of the rare occasions, as teacher Gashuro Vincent told me, where they actually get a chance to use proper equipment.
They like it, they enjoy it, but what is difficult it is materials, and they are in the lower level for cricket.
Yeah, they're not very good yet, but they're trying.
Yes, we try.
And the Cricket Without Boundaries,
yes,
the charity, you've met them before, you've done your coaching with them, haven't you?
Yes. Okay, we try, because in training, we have started to try to train those children in order to introduce HIV and AIDS, how they can prevent. When we finish, there is some message between or among the children, how they can prevent AIDS, how they can know where it can spread. For example, abstinence, it is to prevent that, to use condoms, and so on. So there is some message after
within the cricket, within the games, and
yes,
it works.
It works. The games, yes, and the children started to say. Some age comes and tell me, I am suffering from that. Reason why I cannot play, I have some medicine for HIV, and it is the result of that games.
Alongside the volunteers are Rwandans in distinctive yellow T-shirts who help to run the sessions. Among them is Andre Katrea. Now he's one of the best players in the country. In 2007, he was among the first to be taught by CWB.
I started playing cricket in 2007 on the national team.
And how old are you now?
I'm now 24.
Okay.
I'm 24 years old.
And you do the coaching for Cricket Without Boundaries?
Yeah, I do the coaching. I have now 2 certificates from long time.
Level 2?
Level 2. I'm now level 2. And I also coach under 19 girls, and I also coach under 15 young men.
And Ed was telling me that you were you thought a lot about the HIV/AIDS message.
Yes.
So you took all of your team to get tested.
Yes, my team, VCC, Victory Cricket Club. We used to get after 3 months. We used to go to take a test of HIV.
And that is very important, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very important. I told them so. You have to know how you are, and so that you can continue to protect others.
Do many of them turn up positive?
No,
they're negative. So that's good. So they're all negative, and therefore they're getting the message.
Yes. Now it's time for them to protect themselves.
In Rwanda, the government's doing its best to get the message across, and HIV levels by sub-Saharan African standards are low, around 3% of the population, but that still means it's an epidemic. This is one of the many free testing clinics, like the one Andre took his team to, which allow ordinary Rwandans the chance to find out if they're infected.
The life is complicated. Sometimes when you don't know how your life is, you cannot manage your situation. Sometimes you can meet with the life. So it is better to know how your life is. You can manage your project because you know how your life it is standard. But the problem is this: the young people, they fear to know how their life is. So they need the education about their life.
According to UNICEF, only around half of the Rwandans who are most at risk of infection, those aged between 15 and 24, have a comprehensive understanding of the disease, which is why CWB's work with the vulnerable age groups is so important and is being welcomed by the authorities. Dr. Nsanzimana Sabin is head of HIV at the Rwanda Biomedical Centre.
Linking cricket to HIV is it's a very good idea. It's an innovative idea that we can even learn and use it to other sports or other groups or other means that are possible.
So your aim is ultimately to get HIV new rates of infection down much lower than the levels there are at the moment.
Yes, the goal to fight HIV wherever in the world is to reduce new infection. That's the first goal. So using cricket to reduce new infections in HIV is possible. It depends on the way you strategize. And when you talk about sports and HIV, it's directly linked because you want to be healthy, you want to not have something inside your body destroying you. So if you do cricket and you fight HIV at the same time, it's a wonderful idea.
In Kenya, the HIV rate is twice as bad as that in Rwanda. The Kenyan CWB group has just arrived at a small orphanage in Nakuru in the Rift Valley. Many of the tiny little children in ragged clothes have been abandoned because their parents have the disease.
Well, the first session's just started, and all around us you can hear the chaos. It's organised chaos at best. About 100 little kids aged, between 2 and about 12, running around in their second-hand clothes, covered in dirt, but smiling broad smiles because they've got loads of tennis balls which they're just lobbing around. And a complete shock, I suppose, to the CWB volunteers who've just got here. And probably the widest-eyed among them all is Sarah Hickman, who's from Wolverhampton Grammar School, yes, she's just 17 and she's studying for her A-levels. She's taking an extra week on half-term with her school and her parents' permission, and this is a big eye-opener for her.
It was overwhelming, like literally seeing like how the kind of side of the world lives and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, and lots of faces, and the whole culture is completely different. When we went out into town, how did you feel when you were walking around in Nakuru, which isn't the most developed place in the world?
It's just so different. Like you don't really know what to expect. I think that's kind of what's good about it. Like it's nice to see like a different side of what we're used to.
What do you hope to gain from it all?
I don't know, just a fantastic like experience and stuff, like to learn new cultures, to learn more about HIV and AIDS, which affects just so many people. I don't think people really understand it fully. Like in England, like before CWB, I knew like how drastic it was, but I'd never realised like how it does affect everyone here, really.
All the volunteers, just like Sarah, have to raise the money to pay for their flights, plus an additional £750 to help pay for the kit they take with them, accommodation and other costs. Unlike many charities, nearly everything that's raised is spent on the projects. At the Rift Valley Sports Club, they've organised a session for local school teachers so they can coach the game and the ABC message once the volunteers have gone. And among this CWB team is an international cricketer.
And she's hit over her head. What an excellent shot that is. And it's going to go for 4. It bounces just inside the boundary. 127 for 8. She has got it in her, Holly Colvin. She's got the big shot and she's smiling, the touching gloves.
Holly Colvin was bravely trying to beat Australia in the women's T20 final a week earlier. But after picking herself up from defeat, she packed her bags and came straight to Africa. Just like the others, she's had to raise the money herself.
No special treatment at all. I guess I was in the fortunate position that I had a few more contacts and was able to publicise it a bit more.
Did the ECB give you their backing to you coming over here? Would they encourage you, or they just haven't really paid attention to it?
Oh no, they've. I had discussions with the ECB. Obviously, I just tell them where I'm going and what I'm doing, and I had full support. Actually, our head coach Mark Lane actually used to coach the Kenya international side and spent a lot of years out here, so it was quite close to his heart actually.
And I guess sometimes you get into a bit of a bubble in the world that you're in. It's nice to step out of the bubble occasionally.
Oh yeah, I think also when you play in certain countries, everyone's like, oh, isn't that country brilliant? And sometimes the touring is about the cricket, and sometimes you don't really get to see the country properly. You see the cricket grounds, which is amazing, where you get to play in some really fantastic places, but you don't get to see the country as much as I would like to. So it's definitely an opportunity to be able to actually see and experience the country.
Back in Kigali, the CWB team is running another session, this time at a youth centre. The boys taking part are cared for by a small charity, Ubaka Urwanda, run by Becky Shrubsole and her husband, Evode Usabyamahoro. All the children were street kids, abandoned and abused and left to fend for themselves.
They sleep under bridge. So another problem is much drugs they take. Another is sometimes people not understand them and they beat them. They doing something bad to them. Another time they not take a long time not to have food. Other time is to go to found to the food in rubbish. Another time when they take much drugs, they fighting each other.
This was one of the reasons why I really got involved with sorting out the house situation and giving these people, giving them a safe place to sleep at night, because they would fight just for entertainment value. One boy smashed a cigarette lighter on the other boy's face and set fire to him for fun because he was high and thought it was funny, and that's one of the reasons why we really felt it was really important that we needed to take these boys in.
How many street kids are there? I mean, there are a lot of them.
Yeah, there are a lot of street kids in Rwanda. Something like 30,000 just in the capital.
Well, after 2 weeks in Rwanda and a week in Kigali, it's the culmination of the Cricket Without Boundaries Rwandan programme. And the sound you can hear in the background is about half a dozen quick cricket games going on. In the distance, there's a T20 for the older children on a proper grass pitch with a concrete matting wicket. But it's not just about teaching a new nation cricket or bringing across the HIV/AIDS message, because Where we're playing today was the scene of one of the worst massacres during the genocide in 1994. Somewhere between 2,000 and 3,000 Tutsis were murdered when the UN peacekeepers that had been protecting them pulled out. Occasionally they still find human remains on the pitch here. There's some football posts at the end with bullet holes still there too. So it's not just about cricket and HIV/AIDS, it's as much about redemption, because there are boys and girls playing together, there are Hutu and Tutsi, and they're all learning the game alongside one another.
One thing I will say about every Rwandan is they have the most beautiful, beautiful smile. So you can just rock up to them, say hello, you meet with this big smile back. And I think for me, it's actually speaking to a lot of the people out there, and they're quite willing to speak about the troubles that they had 18 years ago and how they've developed and come together as a nation since then.
Jules Farman, a civil servant back home, has been a key part of the Rwanda CWB team.
On our very first day we went to the Genocide Museum, and for us that kind of brought to us sort of an understanding of what went on. And when you see the streets of Kigali, you wouldn't have known, with the exception of the government building with the bullet holes in the side, that there were these troubles 18 years ago. From playing cricket and with the kids, speaking to the coaches, the country has moved on from that. They haven't forgotten, they're aware of their history, but they want to move on and they want to progress. And so for me that has been a highlight. That and the views. The views are spectacular.
but I mean, coming back to the genocide, I mean, this is the scene of one of the worst massacres, and here we are playing cricket.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, we were quite choked coming up and seeing that this is one of the sites of one of the main massacres in Kigali. And then, for example, last Friday we came up, we had the Rwanda national cricket team. They were having their coaching practice over at the Oval. There were kids playing volleyball, there were boys playing football, there were people playing basketball. And for me, it just shows in a short space of time how much you can progress, and it's so encouraging to see.
C, C, W, W, B, B, A, B, C, 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 W, B, cricket without boundaries.
The country's embracing all things British. Having joined the Commonwealth, changed its national language from French to English, and taken to cricket with gusto. Ironically, the genocide helped to kick-start the game. Refugees fled to other countries where they learned to play and brought it back. Charles Haber was one of those refugees. He's now president of the Rwanda Cricket Association and a big fan of Cricket Without Boundaries.
Actually, I can see about 3 or 4 of the coaches here who play for the national team, and many of them have gotten their skills from CWB. Yeah, actually, I think 2 of them learned how to hold a bat from CWB, and now they're playing for Rwanda. Yeah.
And when you see sites like this, it must fill your heart with joy, I suppose, because it's all good for Rwandan cricket.
Yes. Anywhere where there's somebody chasing a ball and another one hitting it is a bounty of joy for us, because looking at where we've been and where we are today, it's really amazing to see cricket being played in all sorts of corners, and we never fall short of praise for the likes of CWB, who allow us to reach to places that would have otherwise been difficult for ourselves to do on our own. Yeah, so it's just really an amazing sight.
Yes.
Unlike Kenya, which has a long cricketing tradition, in Rwanda the game is in its infancy. But thanks to Cricket Without Boundaries, they've unearthed some raw talent, and the country's teams are getting better, especially at under-19 level. More than half of the men's and the women's team started playing because of CWB. Among them, primary school teacher Annette Mugunga.
I was inspired. I really loved cricket, and I'm still loving it.
And you went on to play for the country?
I did. I played on the girls' team 2007, 2008, 2009. I volunteer once in a while to teach them about cricket drills and the ABC and things like that.
So does teaching ABC with cricket work? Is it a good combination?
It's really a good combination because it brings about the awareness of HIV and how to avoid it. Like, so children, when they know about the ABC, it is good for them to keep healthy, to be careful with their life and look after themselves so that they can do cricket with all energy and all health.
And do you know many people yourself who have HIV?
I do. I know quite many. For children, yes, they were born with the HIV, but I also even other adults like...
Who've contracted it through unsafe sex?
Sure.
This is the end of our tour. This is what we've been building towards. An opportunity for you guys to play on the oval with a hard ball. I want you to call heads or tails. Okay, ready? It is a tail.
Carl Ferguson, an actor, is more used to projecting his voice on stage. His stint with the Royal Shakespeare Company has stood him in good stead to be the CWB project leader in Rwanda.
How hard has it been?
Well, I mean, there's certainly been some challenges. I was warned to expect the unexpected. I don't think you really quite know what that means until you're here. But I guess my role has been to adapt to those situations and to make sure that the inclusion aspect of the game is honoured.
I've just heard you introducing the two sides to one another. This is the culmination of your 2 weeks in Rwanda, but it nearly didn't happen again, didn't it? Because, messages didn't get through. And you also had to go out and fetch all the team.
I guess we take things for granted in England that people sports masters are used to hiring minibuses and getting teams to places. And it's obviously not as easy as that in Rwanda, and that's just something you have to accept and deal with and calmly sort of put it together and make sure the team stays together and get them here if you can. Just to see the smiles on the faces, to see the game being played, and I think also at the end of the sessions to see their connection between some of the messages that we talk about. It's pitched differently to different groups, depending on their age, depending on their understanding of English. But again, that's part of the challenge. But certainly with the secondary schools, I genuinely believe that at the end of the lessons, they've listened to the ABC, they've understood that, and I think that's what makes it worthwhile.
Cricket Without Boundaries started in 2005 when three friends who shared a love of cricket went travelling through Africa. This year there were 10 projects in 5 countries. Besides Rwanda and Kenya, they took place in Botswana, Uganda and Cameroon. The charity's grown rapidly and won international recognition. Ed Williams is a founding member and a trustee.
We're very lucky that we've got starting to develop good links with the ICC, and you can see the T-shirts. On the back of the T-shirt says ThinkWise, which is the ICC's AIDS awareness programme. It's in partnership with UNAIDS and UNICEF, and we're a delivery partner for them, so we're helping them achieve sort of the grassroots delivering of the messages. And with the ECB, we've always had a relationship insofar as what we try and do on each project is send an ECB tutor out so they can do the tutor training, so we generally recruit through the ECB that way.
It's still a relatively small scale operation, isn't it, really, and it's volunteer funded, so it's not costing anybody a great deal, frankly. Is there room for expansion? Would you rather keep it in the model that it exists at the moment?
That's a good question. It's got the real charm of CWB is it is a volunteer charity for volunteers, and obviously if you start getting more money, start employing staff, it becomes more like a real charity, but not you start getting costs and stuff like that. But I think it's inevitable we will grow because it's such a strong story, and we think we're being really effective, and it's just how you manage that growth.
What is ultimately the most important part of it? Is it the cricket or is it the HIV/AIDS message?
Both, because when we started off, I'd say it was cricket development and AIDS awareness, and we just sort of added it on really, and that didn't quite work. So what we're about is it's entirely integrated. So as you can see, like Kevin there, they're catching and they're chanting the ABCs as they're catching. It's just making it integrated. So they're both as important because that's what we're trying to be.
In the past month, the British government stopped sending aid to Rwanda because of its involvement with rebel armies in the Congo. Cricket Without Boundaries, which doesn't give any money directly to the Rwandan government, will be back in the spring. In little more than 5 years, over 35,000 children have been taught their ABC message about HIV/AIDS prevention, and 2,000 new coaches will continue to spread the message when the volunteers aren't there. It's been a phenomenal success story born from such a simple idea. It really has been as easy as ABC.
The last thing I want to remind you of, which is what we all spoke about the training days, is your HIV and your AIDS awareness. So, very quickly, your A means to abstain. To abstain. What does B mean? Be faithful, yes. And what does C mean? Excellent. And what are we doing here today? We are testing ourselves. Top man, he knows what's going on. Are you ready to play some cricket?
On digital and online.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
bbc.co.uk/5live.